When you're buying everything through a media agency, however good they are, they're just not built to give you transparency.
Welcome to Pharma Source. In today's episode, I speak to Sharmeen Lalani-Fade, Global Procurement Lead for Online Media, Creative and Data for Bayer. We discuss what it takes for procurement to make an impact on marketing in such a regulated industry. And, in particular, a big project that they've been working on with Google to bring their ad technology stack in-house, with the aim of helping Bayer to get closer to their customers and to be less reliant on agencies. Sharmeen, welcome. This is the first time we've had someone with a background like yours in marketing on the podcast, so I'm quite keen to hear all about it.
Excellent. Well, I'm keen to talk about it. It's an area that's not very common. It's quite rare to have a skill set in this domain, simply because programmatic and search are not new concepts, but they have been around for a while, but it's taken time for procurement to skill up. Indeed, it's taken marketeers time to skill up. So procurement has followed in those footsteps.
It's really complicated. When you look at the programmatic landscape, all the different ad tech providers, I mean, where do you even start with that? I mean, there's so many suppliers and microtransactions going on. Where do you begin?
Right. So it's about understanding the marketing landscape when it comes to online platforms, right? Mm-hmm. And so they can be divided up into groups. So you'll have your demand side platform. So think of economics when you think of your demand side and your supply side. It's the same with the ecosystem. So you have all of those suppliers on the demand side and all of those suppliers on the supply side. Mm-hmm. And some of them do both, like Google, right? So they own YouTube, so they're on the supply side. And then you have your technology that supports the brand safety. So fraud, there's fraud out there on the internet, and so you have this bucket called ad verification and brand safety, which looks after your ads. And in between the demand and the supply side, you have what is everything that's there to help serve that ad. So your ad servers and so on. Mm-hmm. So your AdTech. But in principle, all you need to know is demand and supply.
And Bayer would sit very firmly on the demand side.
Absolutely, yes. We're on the demand side because we're an advertiser. Mm-hmm. So if you're an advertiser, you will sit on the demand side. Now, not all advertisers directly contract with tech platforms. Mm-hmm. And it's a decision that a company can't really take lightly. It requires a great deal of upskilling of the organization and know-how. And when I talk about the organization, I don't just talk about marketing. I'm talking about procurement, the support functions, all the way through to accounts payable, IT, your media agency. And you might think, well, surely your media agency knows about the tech stack and what it involves. Well, no, not everyone, not in country and not at the ground level. And so when Bayer decided to in-house the tech stack, which means directly contract with companies like Google and for brand safety and other DSPs, went on a journey of modernized marketing, so a digital journey. And so what that's involved is introducing an online company to an offline company.
Okay. Was it a big decision deciding to in-house your tech stack?
Yes, it was. It required a great deal of due diligence, and it's essentially taking a portion of the work away from the media agency and directly contracting. It's not easy to do. You need to be prepared for some of the common pitfalls, and we've been on this journey, so those are quite obvious to us today, but they weren't very obvious to us some time ago. And so if you're not aware of the pitfalls, it can be quite an uphill struggle. When you're working with an offline organization and you're incorporating an online, very much a digital entity, your systems and processes need to speak to one another. And I think where a lot of companies might think, oh, yes, we can directly contract with any platform. really easy. No, it's not. You really, it's the systems and processes of one speaking to the other. And I'll give you an example, a very procurement example. When you're buying services on the platforms of Google, Google doesn't accept a PO. A PO needs to go into the platform. So if you think of programmatic and you're buying Google's DB360, if you think about anything else, typically it'll be an assistant of marketing that will raise a purchase request, and there'll be a purchase order raised and so on. Now you're talking about digital managers. Digital managers who then have to go into the platforms and insert the PO, but not anywhere. There are certain options of where to place that PO. And if you place that PO in the wrong place, when you get the invoice, it's not going to get paid. And if it doesn't get paid, you get suspended. Your account gets suspended, your ads are offline. So it's an intricate web. So this PO gets created by Bayer. It goes to the media agency. The media agency puts that into the platform. And if you think about the journey that PO number goes through, there's a number of places where it could fall down. So just something as simple as that could cause havoc.
So I guess what you're talking about, Sharmeen, is a 100-year-old company.
160-year-old.
160 years, trying to interface, trying to partner with a new breed tech company.
Yes.
What other challenges have you encountered on that journey?
When you're onboarding a tech stack, it involves IT. It involves the media agency. It involves the stakeholder or the digital managers. It involves the tech platform themselves and procurement. And everybody in that cross-functional team needs to understand the technical language of what we're trying to do. Now, if you don't, you could make one small mistake and that will have repercussions across the value chain. And so one of the challenges has been right at the start, knowing what I know today, right at the start, had I had known, platforms would have been set up differently. I'll give you an example. When you place a PO in DV360, you need to go to the insertion order level, not the advertiser level or the campaign level, right? You won't necessarily know what I'm talking about. And I've never seen that. I've never seen that in a platform, but I know that right at the beginning, those instructions need to be very clearly laid out to your media agency and to your brand team.
I've tried in the past using tools like Google AdWords, Google DFP, but I just find it just because of that sort of taxonomy so horribly complicated. I've always preferred just to give it to an agency. Sort this out for us.
Right.
What are the benefits then of bringing that complexity in-house? There must be some tangible benefits.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Think about the holy grail of procurement, and that is cost transparency. And when you're buying everything through a media agency, however good they are, they're just not built to give you transparency. If you think about a media agency, they've got a number of different clients that they're doing work for and paying invoices for, and they're not a paying invoices company, they're a media agency. And so their strong point isn't necessarily divvying up the complex tech invoices to the right to the correct customer. And so and I shouldn't be saying this, but you probably have quite a broad brush general, this is what this supplier should pay, this customer should pay, this is what this customer should pay. But when you in-house for the first time, you have complete cost transparency, but you've got nothing to compare it to. And so you need to build up your historic data as a procurement person to be able to understand if you ever change DSP or a brand safety supplier, you then have a benchmark of your previous price paid. And so that's a challenge. That's also a challenge because as markets move on to the tech stack, they're constantly trying to see how much cheaper they are, and you can't because you don't have the previous cost. And so one of the benefits is cost transparency. Another benefit would be campaign optimization transparency. And so when you are working with an agency and the agency holds that seat, they won't necessarily give you access to see what decisions are being made on your campaign. If you own that seat as an organization and you give access to your media agency, they can make decisions on your campaign and you can see them. You might not be able to do anything about it by going in and correcting a decision, but you have the historic data, you can see what's going on and you can ask questions. If you're thinking of changing media agency and you're having a global agency review, you just switch the previous agency off and you switch the new agency on. It's as simple as that. When you think about data, you own the data, not the media agency. And so all your campaign data belongs to you because you own that seat and that direct relationship with the tech platform. If you're going through a media agency, you don't necessarily own that data. And if you do get that data, it might not be in the format that you want it in.
Is there more risk involved with that then? So if you're owning the data, presumably you're taking on the risk of the different marketing regulations in different countries. Have the teams had to become trained and upskilled in that sort of area?
Yes, I would say so, yes. Although data is a separate piece, so you've got the tech platforms, you've got the media cost. If you think of what you're buying, and you've got the media agency fee of actually uploading the campaign onto the tech platforms. And then you have your data cost. And your data cost is your second, third party data that you're buying in. And as organizations ramp up their skill and abilities in first-party data and harnessing first-party data to gain actionable insights, then you're going to find that there's some upskilling needed in order to be able to do that. So when you're thinking about the tech stack and you're thinking about, let's say, Google, who has about 1 billion users per platform, you have access to that data. And so you have access to that data and it's Google's data that you're accessing. So in terms of customers that go onto search and so on. As you become more and more digitally savvy as an organization, you don't need a suite of services owned by, for example, Google or one ecosystem. And you start buying a DSP here and ad serving here, and different. You mix and match. What you'll find is the marketeers will need to answer GDPR questions, and procurement will need to support in that. And so you need to start thinking about mapping the journeys that a cookie goes through, right? And being completely familiar with GDPR legislation, because this is an integral part of a digital journey.
How have you found Google as a strategic partner? I mean, have they given you a lot of support in this?
I would say yes. At the beginning, it was a struggle. I think probably because we as an organization needed to upskill. But I think as we've grown together as organizations, we've forged a strategic alliance and a very fruitful strategic alliance, I would say. We hold Google dear as a very strategic partner. And we have joint business plans where we align on corporate goals. At my level as a procurement person, as a procurement professional, as we've grown and onboarded more markets onto the tech stack, I think what I'm finding is that because procurement people understand the tech world is so rare, that they're very open to receiving you as a procurement person if you know what you're talking about. Right. And so it's been a journey for me, right? It's been a 3-year journey for me. If you go in and you don't know what a DSP is, and you don't know what DV360 is, and you're speaking to Google, they're going to be less patient. But if you do know what you're talking about, and if you do know the challenges that they're potentially going to be facing with their invoices not being paid and accounts being suspended, and you can talk about that up front, you're going to have a different kind of relationship at a procurement level.
And I imagine just because of the pure scale of a company like Google, does that mean it's a different type of strategic partner to the one that Bayer probably is used to, where I imagine typically you would be a big chunk of that supplier's revenue and they would maybe have a different level of account management? I mean, how have you found that?
Yeah, I guess there are a handful of global clients that Google considers strategic alliances, and I'd like to think that we're one of them. There are many FMCG companies out there that probably spend a lot more than we do. But it's when you're talking about the direction and the goals of an organization and aligning them with a strategic partner, then it's a different kind of commercial relationship. It's not all about the traditional procurement parameters. It's much more understanding how you can both grow together and top line focus, right? And traditionally procurement's been bottom line focused.
And in terms of relationships, how could you explain how it works between you and the marketing team? Because presumably the you and your stakeholders, the CMO that you work with, you must be closely aligned to get through this journey together. I mean, how's that been, please?
Oh, absolutely. It's been great. The team have embraced procurement. We work hand in hand in discussing. So it's demand forecasting. It's strategic sourcing. It's understanding the cross-divisional landscape. I work primarily with one division, but I have a cross-divisional scope, and so I bring in the learnings and the opportunities from the other divisions, and I share what the one division that I work for can offer, because they're much more advanced when it comes to digital marketing, what they can offer to these other two divisions, crop science and pharma. And so we have a very close relationship where we discuss strategic goals and how are they going to translate into the JVP that we have for strategic partners.
Yeah. What advice would you have for others who would like to go on this type of journey? So I guess if we in two buckets. So one is working with marketing on a forward-looking strategy and how procurement can support that, and also how to work with a tech giant. I mean, which is two big parts of the job, I presume.
Yeah.
What advice could you give?
So someone embarking on this journey and working with stakeholders is understand your business strategy. What is your medium to long-term strategy in terms of your digital journey, your modernizing marketing road, right? And understand where your organization wants to play. They might not want to in-house a tech stack. They might want direct relationships with social media platforms or with gaming platforms. Understand where they want to go and get in early into those discussions, because it takes time to build a rapport with a social media company. And so these relationships and contracts potentially take months to put in place. When it comes to dealing with a tech platform, do your homework, right? Don't go in there and not know what they're talking about. Do your homework about it. When it comes to dealing with strategic partners or potentially strategic partners, help them to understand your organization. And if you're a 100-year-old company, then understand your organization and make it easy for that tech company to work with you. If you put yourself in the shoes of a tech organization, it's a different mindset, and the processes and procedures are just not the same. And so when they're entering the world of big pharma or FMCG, remember, we're dealing with people, right? People on the ground, and that they resemble the Googles of this world and the Metas of this world. They're the people, and if they find it difficult to work with you because of your processes and procedures, because of you as a procurement person, and your inability to relate to them, they're going to look somewhere else. And long gone are the days where procurement are saying, well, we're going to do a pitch, because you can't really pitch with a Meta or a Google. It's a different kind of relationship, and understand the power dynamic, understand the relationship that you could potentially have, foster those alliances. People are people are individuals, complex individuals who require respect. And going in as a traditional procurement person saying, I demand is not going to work.
Where do you go next over the next 1 to 2 years? What's in the plans?
Oh,
that you can share.
Well, onboarding more tech stack markets, right? So we've onboarded our top markets, and as more and more markets become more digitally aware and more spend shifts from the offline traditional linear TV to the digital landscape, more and more countries will want to join the tech stack. As more and more countries come onto the tech stack, from a pure procurement perspective, you're going to be looking at the top markets who have been on the tech stack for some while, maturing and wanting relationships with additional suppliers. So moving away from the cozy everything in one ecosystem like Google, possibly moving to incorporating other potential solutions, maybe gaming or social media platforms. And you might find that relationships that were typically with your media agency, through your media agency, you start having direct relationships with as spend shifts away from linear TV. And I think it's good to prepare for that to eventually happen in the Internet of Things, right? Everything is moving towards the digital landscape, and that will be procurement of the future.
And this type of partnership, as you roll it out, is there a demonstrable cost saving there or efficiency in the business case?
Yes, there is. So your cost saving will be in potentially financial and non-financial benefits. In your more operational kind of categories like ad serving and brand safety, it will be your previous price paid versus today's price paid. But in the strategic alliances, it'll be much more, how can you further business goals through financial and non-financial benefits, and steering your organization and your finance teams to think about procurement of the future as looking at top line as well as bottom line, understanding that if you're getting non-financial benefits, how do you quantify those? And how do you quantify them as having a financial business impact and that's measurable, because procurement will have an impact in that area.
In your career, you've worked at Bayer, at Merck before that, and then at PepsiCo.
And also in Mondelez and
yes, so a real mix of industries. What is it about life sciences, would you say, which makes it an interesting industry to be in?
For me personally, I would say science for a better life. Our vision and purpose at Bayer versus, I don't know, selling junk food. Health for all, hunger for none, makes you get out of bed. When you're saving lives, saving sight, diabetes, heart disease, when you're making a difference in people's lives, that's what makes a huge difference.
It doesn't take long, does it, talking to people in pharma before it comes back to that we're actually making a real difference here? Do you feel that in your role, I mean, can you trace what's happening in procurement to investing in those sorts of life-saving treatments? Absolutely.
So where we look at financial, non-financial benefits, and some of the things that we look at is media for good, and incorporating our goals of reaching 100 million underserved communities and women, and all under the auspices of health for all and hunger for none, incorporated into media for good and diversity, equity and inclusion and sustainability is part of our joint business plan. Yeah, it's very much part of our joint business plan. So I can directly feel the connection with our vision and purpose. Absolutely.
That's great. Sharmeen, thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful speaking to you.
Thank you, and to you too. And it's been an absolute pleasure being on this programme.
A big thank you to Sharmeen for taking us through that. For more insights into sourcing and partnering in the pharma industry, head to pharmasource.global, where you can sign up as a member. Thank you for listening.